So big news for the listeners this week, as I'm sure everyone's been following. There's been the big controversy with Joe Rogan and Neil Young and
Oh
Spotify.
wow.
You've been following this, Ethan?
No, I mean I follow each of those individuals and corporations separately, but I didn't know there was an interaction.
Yeah, well, so like Neil Young is very opposed to like Joe Rogan's kind of like vax misinformation. And so he has actually pulled his music from Spotify.
Wow.
And I felt like we should, stand in solidarity with Neil Young. So we will actually be, you're told, but I'm standing in front of you as of today, is no longer going to be available on Spotify or anywhere else besides neilyoungarchives.com, where we have signed an exclusive contract for $1.99 a month. You get access to the full Neil Young discography.
Wow.
And every episode of You're Tall, but I'm standing in front of you. And we're really excited about it.
Wow, what a deal. So I actually I didn't know about that we were going to be doing this, but thank you for taking the lead.
Yeah,
on
I mean,
decision.
I do have power of attorney for the podcast.
Yeah, which, you know.
So you haven't been following this news at all?
No, not at all. But I have been working on a song that I think is in the vein of Neil Young that he would probably appreciate and probably would, given the news, be a better opener for the podcast with our move to the neilyoungarchives.com.
All right, let's I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure it's going to be really it's obviously not going to be topical because you haven't been following the news, but I think it's going to be really thematically resonant. Can't wait to hear it. Let's hear the new theme song for You're Tall, but I'm standing in front of you, exclusively on neilyoungarchives.com.
10 soldiers and Rogan's coming. We're finally on our own. I saw the topic trending. COVID on Rogan show. 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 Gotta get down to it. Spotify shutting us down. They should have been done long ago. What if you took the vaccine? They found you dead on the ground. How can you jab when you know? COVID on Rogan show. COVID on Rogan show. COVID on Rogan show. COVID on Rogan show.
So Ethan, I have some questions.
Yeah, shoot.
This did I don't know if you noticed this. The song, it's very, have you heard of a song called Ohio? It's it's about,
I've heard
like,
there's a
Penn
state
shooting.
There's a state called that.
Yeah. Well, so like there's also a song about Ohio,
Oh.
specifically like the Kent State shootings. Are you familiar
Yeah,
with
no,
that?
I've
Like,
heard.
really
Yeah,
important.
no. Yeah, I think
And
I've
like
heard
Neil
that
Young
one.
wrote that song, and your song does sound very similar.
Yeah, no, that wasn't Neil Young. That was Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. But I get how you could.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I mean, those are. Yeah, and it was Sean Young in that band, right, from Blade Runner.
It could have been. I don't follow.
But
yeah.
But you keep saying you haven't been following the news, but I mean that song does appear to be about this controversy.
I mean, I do think, I've heard the song Ohio. One of the faults is that, like it's very one-sided.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a verse from the perspective of the National Guard. So I think like my song is like a little bit of an improvement in that like you sort of get into the mind of the anti-vaxxer and really like, because empathy is so important.
Well, and it's like I've just negotiated this, this is like a multi-million-dollar deal with
Yeah. Oh,
NeilYoungArchives.com. And I'm like, really, like,
I got a +1 in my inbox from Neil.
yeah, like
It's a
I'm worried he's going to be upset about this.
Yeah.
He's got some pretty serious views, and he's also very careful about like the ways in which his music is heard and like the fidelity at which it's heard. Like,
yeah, he copied me on an email to the NeilYoungArchives.com. He said, with an estimated 11 listeners per episode, You're Tall But I'm Standing in Front of You, which is hosted exclusively on the NeilYoungArchives.com, is the NeilYoungArchives.com's largest podcast and has tremendous influence. The NeilYoungArchives.com has a responsibility to mitigate the spread of misinformation on its platform, though the company presently has no misinformation policy. So let this be note. The NeilYoungArchives.com can have You're Tall But I'm Standing in Front of You or Young, not both. Well, that was rude.
And I actually have just gotten word myself that, I have like a Google alert set up for the podcast. Press release just released by the NeilYoungArchives.com. And like, I can't think this is going to be good for us, but I'm reading this for the first time.
We had a good run.
So we're breaking this news live on the pod. This may be the last episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. So getting this in live from NeilYoungArchives.com, quote, "We want all Neil Young's music and audio content to be available to NeilYoungArchives.com users. With that comes great responsibility in balancing both safety for listeners and freedom for creators. We have detailed content policies in place, and we've removed over 20,000 podcast episodes related to Red Dawn since the escalation of hostilities in Ukraine. We regret Neil Young's decision to remove his music from NeilYoungArchives.com, but hope to welcome him back soon."
Wow. That didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go.
Well, I mean, I guess we are now the flagship entertainment of NeilYoungArchives.com.
Yeah, we can whip up a few more Neil Young style songs, I'm sure. How hard can it be?
All right.
How hard can it possibly be?
Well, that's a win for us. And welcome to You're Tall But I'm Standing in Front of You, the exclusive podcast of NeilYoungArchives.com. We're two friends circling the drain of academia, examine the cultural detritus of the 20th century. I'm Devin.
I'm Ethan.
And hell of an episode this week. Like people sometimes, they ask us like, you examine the cultural detritus of the 20th century, yet you will have episodes about 21st century films, right? Our last episode was about Spider-Man, Far From Home or No Way Home. You will have episodes about good movies like The Master.
Or Super Mario Brothers.
But we are really back in our like classic bullshit this week.
Wow.
The detritus perhaps we have ever watched and will ever watch. Red Dawn, 1984.
Yeah, not the 2012 version with where North Korea invades the United States, but the classic 1984.
Yeah, directed by John Milius.
Oh, was he running the CIA in the 80s?
He did co-write Apocalypse Now,
Really?
which you would think would be promising. He also, though, wrote the first two Dirty Harry films. So I would really like to see specifically what contributions to the Apocalypse Now screenplay that he made. But it's a movie about friendship, brotherhood, freedom.
Yeah.
And why sporting goods store gun registry forms are just execution lists waiting to happen.
I've been saying this for years. I've got a little plot summary that we can run through before we dive right into things if that works for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we do need to, because viewers, you're not going to want to watch this. So let us summarize it for you.
Yeah. So 1984's Red Dawn is a traditional coming-of-age story, perhaps drawing inspiration for its title from the John Steinbeck classic The Red Pony. This film stars Patrick Swayze as the indomitable Jed Eckert, with his love interest being played by the always charming John Birch Society. When we meet Jed at the start of the film, he is listless, not sure what to do with his life ever since coach didn't put him in the fourth quarter of the state championship, which of course he blames for the team losing the game and for the stagflation of the late 1970s. However, after a chance encounter with a few out-of-towners, Jed finds his calling in life as a sort of Boy Scout leader for his brother Matt, played by the indomitable Charlie Sheen, and Matt's cohort of friends from school. The film details the adventures of this band of merry men as they learn how to brave the harsh mistress that is the Coloradan winter and murder a few score of Soviet, Cuban, and Nicaraguan regular soldiers along the way. The film's plot comes to a head when the producers realize they've exhausted all of their money but haven't used the fancy helicopters yet. And also when Colonel Bella, played by the indomitable Ron O'Neal, realizes that he doesn't love communism quite as much as he loves good old reliable Catholicism. You will laugh, you will cry laugh, and you will groan at this 1984 classic, filmed almost entirely on location in Langley, Virginia. Please join us for this American classic, Red Dawn.
No, I think what I love about that is you really got to actually the core of what's actually going on in this film, right? Like, I don't know to the extent we even want to do an actual plot summary of this film, right? Basically, it's like we've got these dudes, they're in high school, they're getting a lecture about the Mongols and how the Mongols would kill people, which in like excruciating detail from memory by this history teacher. And the Soviet Union just kind of like parachutes in and starts fucking like murking people.
In 4 minutes into this film, there are paratroopers dropping outside of their high school who just immediately, like the teacher walks outside to be like, what's going on here? Which ends up being a poor decision because they gun him down. They RPG into the hallway of the school for some reason. They're blowing up school buses. 4 minutes is what it takes for the Soviets to invade. It's you missed one piece, which is the like opening credits.
Of course,
this is like a alt at that time, like present reality where like there's it's like, hey, what if we wanted to do like the fear mongering of the 80s, but like we don't have time, so we're just gonna like list it as things that definitely could happen in this alternate future.
It's very much like it's not, that's what's very weird about it, because the film wants you to feel like this could happen, right? Like this could, because its vibe is very sort of like we actually don't get, we only see this war, it's World War III basically that breaks out. We only see it from the small town. We don't actually, like the characters don't have access to what is actually going on in like the rest of the world, right? We never get like a clear sense of even what exactly the scale of the invasion is really. We know there's been some nukes dropped and stuff. But it's meant to feel like, oh, this could happen to you. You're just in class one day and then like, boom, the Russians are there. Except that to make that credible, it relies upon creating a completely alternate history through these like title cards, which are basically just like these sensationalist, like, kind of like scenarios of socialism, communism spreading, but things that didn't happen. So it's like, we're being told we're like in the normal world, right? But by the time the film is like starting and the title cards have stopped, we are actually in a completely alternate universe. In which seemingly the US is actually like not the main superpower. So like, but the film like also relies on you instantly forgetting about that. And then just feeling like this is happening to like you and the America, right?
I'm so because they just like lay out like screen after screen. They're like, Cuba enlists 1 million soldiers. NATO dissolves. Mexico has civil war. We don't arm the Contras in Nicaragua. And I'm surprised they didn't like throw on there like the Democrats raise taxes or like something like if you're like shooting all your shots, like throw something out there. Like we don't arm the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Like things like that because they just like put out all of these points before the movie even begins. And then it begins and within 4 minutes, the Soviets have invaded Colorado.
Yeah, it isn't technically in media res because it does start with just like this scene of like they're going to school and like the reminiscences of Patrick Swayze about the football game and like, you know, the team is the Wolverines and that ends up being the name that they take on as like guerrilla fighters, right? But like as you say, like almost instantly it's just like, oh, it's like there's no escalation. It's just like 0 to 60.
Yeah.
And basically just like these few kids managed to like make off into the woods.
Yeah. Like one of the kids' dads has like a general store out in the country that they grabs. Hilariously, they grab like cases of Coke and Sprite and no water. But they haul off into the wood and like some guns, which comes back to fuck over that kid's dad later on. But like they haul off into the woods, into the Coloradan wilderness to like wait out World War III, I guess.
Yeah, and they like it's very interesting, like to me, like too, like there is no narrative in this film of like these kids because of this occupation by Soviet and other communist forces like becoming nationalists or whatever. You know, they are instantly nationalists. Like there's this scene very early where they're still kind of in the process of escaping, where there's this big like blockade of soldiers and then like a helicopter's coming and they're like, oh shit. But then the helicopter starts bombing the communist forces and the kids just keep shouting, it's ours, it's ours. Yeah. And that line repeats constantly in the movie during these weird skirmishes. People will be like, it's ours. And it's like, it's, you know, but like these kids are like 14 or something.
Yeah.
And they already like have a complete, like they have no ambiguity about being like completely devoted to this, guerrilla cause of like fighting the occupying force. Right. Which, you know, one could imagine a movie where like that sort of, it at least takes the movie like 30 minutes to show like the characters developing in that way and like in response to like whatever the occupying forces are doing, right? But this is a fully formed consciousness, like pre-exists the movie.
Yeah.
And then basically it's just like a few hours of just like occasional skirmishes that even if you're in the mood for the beefiest, like shallowest action movie, these scenes have no vitality.
No.
They have no choreography. They have no sense of space or movement. It's just like endless machine gun fire.
Yeah.
Like
it literally like every scene repeats. There are communist forces in some location. And then suddenly the Wolverines pop out. They always do like the same scene as I forget what her name was, but it's like the quiet one. She always like pops out and like unfurls her giant machine gun to start like shooting it. It's the same scene. Like 6 times they do this.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like a movie at all. It feels like you're watching like a police training video or something. Cause it's just like, it's like the same skirmish over and over again. And then like eventually then there's like, oh, and then they meet this like downed fighter pilot played by Powers Booth, who has like a romantic relationship with one of the young women that's really incredibly inappropriate. Yeah. And the movie, apparently like they cut scenes from it because it was like even viewers in the 80s thought that was weird, but like it's still like when he dies later, the girl shouts like, I will never love again. And it's like, listen, you're definitely gonna love again. Don't worry about it. It was just Powers Booth. But there is like a less successful skirmish where like Powers Booth dies and like some of the other kids die. The characters are also completely indistinguishable. They have no personalities. They have names. To the extent any are distinguishable, it's Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen because they're brothers, right? And then there's like the two girls, and then there's just like additional like generic kids.
Yeah, like very early on, they have Daryl, who's like the mayor's kid, who is also like the president of the student union or something at school. So he's like, we should have a vote to decide what we want to do. And Patrick Swayze's immediately like, no, fuck democracy. I'm the older, strong guy. Let's become partisans. You don't get a say in this. So it's lovely how just immediately they abandon any concept of democracy and revert to like, let us engage in this masculine order that Patrick Swayze will lead us through World War III with.
Yeah, and then that character, of course, ultimately like betrays the group, which it happens off screen, right?
It's
like I gotta
so
be honest,
weird.
I was like missing large. I was missing large sections of this movie because it's just so boring. But like, we don't see him betray them.
Yeah,
right?
like later on in the movie,
find out later.
They like he confesses to this when he's caught because they put a tracking device on him. But he's like, yeah, I snuck into town and they, made me swallow this tracking device. Like, how did this dude like just sneak out of camp and into town?
There's only like 5 of them at that
probably
point, right?
Noticed it.
Like,
and
it just shows you how little this film is interested in like, regardless of its politics, just any kind of storytelling. Because obviously it would be like a relatively compelling scene to show him going into town and then being betrayed by his father, the mayor, who is basically kind of like the Vichy government of this town, right? Like he's trying to corroborate with the communists. Show him being betrayed by his father, show him being tortured and the device going, that would actually create some characterization, some intrigue. Instead, it's just, we see another skirmish. And then at the end of the skirmish, they find a tracking device and trace it to the guy. And then one of them kills him. Like, he's executed for being a traitor.
Wait, correct me if I'm wrong, but like none of the Wolverines died in that assault, did they? Like, it was another one of these.
No, nobody died. They killed all the Russians.
Yeah, like they
got a prisoner they executed.
They go through the plot of like they increasingly become these partisans, and eventually they bring in the big bad, the Soviets do, to like come in there and bring order to things and actually take down the Wolverines. But his plan is essentially like has the same outcome, which is he just like sends these Soviet troops off into the woods that they also all die. The only difference is like, but they had a tracking device.
Yeah, no, it's literally just like my plan is to also get involved in skirmishes with these guerrilla forces. We should also talk about the parents, right? We get a little bit of the parents, but to the extent this film has an arc, one of the most important moments, right, is the two brothers. They sneak to the drive-in movie theater has become a re-education camp. And it's playing like an Eisenstein movie. And the brother's father is played by Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah.
Which was so disappointing. Like one of my favorite actors, right? Like Paris, Texas, various David Lynch stuff, right? Alien, of course, right? Great actor. Gives them just this speech about like how like, hey, I was an abusive dad, but that's good because now you're good at being guerrilla fighters and like avenge me.
Yeah.
And then him and all the other like dads are like lined up and to be shot, and they start singing America the Beautiful. And it's like completely out of key, and they're like not hitting the notes. They're like fist pumping. And then they literally are all shot to death as they are like atonally belting out the line above the fruited plain.
Yeah.
Hell of a way to go.
Yeah.
But I guess to the extent the film has an arc, that's kind of like, right, like the Freudian, like, now you are the father or whatever.
Right. Yeah. They have
not Freudian, but
Yeah, they have various. It seems like a lot of the scenes are intended to essentially be like to the viewer, hey, you may inherently think that all of these things that we're talking about in like far right circles are bad, but look at this fictional scenario where we're going to justify them literally like one by one by one. So Harry Dean Stanton's character's his exact line was, I was tough on both of you and I did things that made you hate me sometimes, but you understand now, don't you? Then later on, right after the scene where all of the civilians get gunned down singing America the Beautiful, you have Patrick Swayze's character like trying to console his brother and the others, and his whole line is, don't cry, hold it back, let it turn to something else. Just let it turn to something else, okay? Listen to me, don't cry. Don't you ever cry again as long as you live. As long as you live, never do it. It's like, Jesus.
This film is made, like, this was made by people with the emotional intelligence of like a gummy bear. Like, my God. But it really is like, you know, the obviously the more fantastical kind of speculations the film is doing, right, involve these like major geopolitical scenarios. But I think that line with about the child abuse, right, is really actually kind of gets to the core logic of this film, right? Which is it's taking things that are being done that are objectively horrible, right? Whether they're actions by fathers, whether they're actions by an oppressive state apparatus, right? But then the film is imagining the fantastical event that never happened, right? That would retrospectively make those actions noble, right? And it's like, well, what happened in real life was Harry Dean Stanton's kids never became guerrilla fighters because the US wasn't invaded, right? And now they're just like fucked up.
Yeah.
And like, what about the generations of fathers abusing their kids, even in this universe, who like those fathers didn't time it right and their kids weren't the proper age to become guerrilla fighters, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's this fantasy of like, oh, but this event will happen, and then all this stuff we've been doing, which we're actually doing for reasons of like capital accumulation and, you know, oppressing internal radical forces to the country, you know, etc. It'll turn out, oh, well, they were actually good because look, if we hadn't done them, everyone would have like been slaughtered and killed, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It really is. It's pure agitprop in that way, that it's like just throwing it all at the wall and being like, look at this mountain of hypotheticals. If this were to happen in a way that just literally can't, because we have to we have to move into the fantastical realm at the very start of the film. But if all of this happened, then it would all be for a worthy cause, wouldn't it? Because it would all work out. Yeah.
Like, yeah, we need to create like untold amounts of death yearly so that we can create these particular 8 children who somehow won't just get instantly headshotted when they try to defeat the Soviet army after, you know, which has tanks and shit, right? Like, and it's like, you know, and you brought up the word agitprop, right? And it's like, I really want to be clear especially for folks who haven't seen this movie, like, we're a podcast that we talk about a lot of movies and we do like unpack their like ideological messages, right? They're like sort of like unspoken ideological justifications. Like, it's almost impossible to talk about this film because there actually really is nothing to unpack. This really is just straight up propaganda. Like, this is this makes the most reactionary films we've talked about look like incredibly artful. Which I guess like maybe we want to talk about, because I think to the extent this film is interesting, right, it's maybe the question of like, well, how did this film get made? Because this film doesn't seem like it should have been like a Hollywood production. It seems like it's like a made for TV movie, or even like something that would like a PSA by the State Department, right? So like, which is again, not to say that Hollywood films aren't incredibly reactionary most of the time, right? But like, how did this film become so much what it is? And like the explanation for that is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, because like this is a film that was so over the top that if I have my facts correct, the Department of Defense like withdrew their support of the film. Like they actually like noped out by the end product of this, which is like really
Man,
telling.
when you are too hardcore for the Department of Defense, now I want to like the movie almost. Like
Yeah, like it so there is some interesting things to consider. Like if you're watching the film, if you actually understand the process through which this film eventually got made, there are some interesting things to think about with that. So for instance, when you look at the original screenplay for this film by Kevin Reynolds, it was meant to be an anti-war film. You know, the idea of like, imagine if war actually came to America, how like dehumanizing it would be, how there are essentially no winners. And you get like little ghosts of this in the final product that comes out, but it's not in any way that you would really catch it if you don't think about it. But I think that's really interesting to think about.
Yeah, I think like maybe what comes to mind for me is to the extent we get any of that, it's really weird because it's so phoned in at the last minute, but the one Cuban general
Yeah.
who decides not to kill the brothers at the end of the film, even though the brothers have already received fatal wounds, but he lets them like limp off and die like on their own terms, right? But like the film realizes it's done no work whatsoever to establish why that Cuban general would do
Yeah,
that.
and I took note as this was happening. This is the last 10 minutes of including the credits of the film.
Yeah. And so like they have a scene that comes out of nowhere because none of these characters have been giving any interiority of these villainous characters, where the Cuban general is like writing a letter or his journal or something?
I think it's a letter to his sweetheart or his wife or something.
Yeah. And it does a voiceover of like what he's writing, right? So it very much seems like something they like inserted like in post, like but where he's basically just like having some reflections about how like, man, this is really getting out of hand in so many words. But up to that point, like all of those people have been purely like machines of death, right?
Yeah.
Like the film has not been doing any kind of like, oh, it's complicated on both sides thing up to this point. And all of the soldiers that the partisans capture are just like executed like dogs.
Yeah, that character is so interesting. It was his Colonel Bella is his name.
Oh, sorry, he's a colonel, not a general.
Yeah, but who cares? Played by Ron O'Neal, and is he supposed to be Cuban? Is that the deal? First off, like
he's either Cuban or Nicaraguan, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the filmmakers really differentiated, but
yeah.
First off, it's hilarious because a lot of I guess they were going for like a realism thing, so they speak a lot of Russian and Spanish, but they just had to overdub it all, I'm assuming, because it really does not line up with anybody's mouths when they're speaking. So that's funny, but yeah, that's such a weird character for them to decide in the last 10 minutes to try and humanize. I guess like just for the fact that like, well, why wouldn't he kill the Americans at the end? And again, like the best I can come up with is because it's like, well, maybe because he's a godly man and because he is religious, because he does like that, he says vio con Dios, he says like go with God.
Okay, yeah. There you go. Yeah, see, so yeah. They're it's like they're trying to do something with like the godless Soviet Union, right? But but like the Catholicism of Latin America, right, still holds within it a potential that could defy the communism. Like, and maybe the message there is like they're trying to say like the communism in Latin America is more being imposed by the Soviet Union, right? And like the people of Latin America instead want to be colonized by us.
Yeah, and this is where it becomes very clear that the script went through a few hands. Probably the most notable of hands that it went through was General Alexander Haig, former Nixon chief of staff, who was on the board of MGM, who got his hands on this and was like, "Oh, we can do things with this film."
Yeah. You might also know, you might remember Alexander Haig from his time as Secretary of State under Reagan. He's the guy that like erroneously thought that he was third in the line of succession when Reagan was shot. Like I think the famous line is like, "I'm in charge now" or something, right?
Yeah. HW did not appreciate that.
But yeah, this guy basically like takes this film over.
Yeah.
And it really is why it has such a pure agitprop vibe, because this was not a guy that actually understood maybe how to do artful propaganda, right? We're not trying to say other Hollywood films aren't necessarily propaganda, right? But he was just like, let's get some messages.
It's so explicit. Yeah. And that's where it really comes to light, where you're like, oh, all of these just really gross parts of the film where it's like, here's why parental abuse is okay. Here's why literally having any sort of gun registry is bad. Here's why. Like it's just like goes one by one by one, and it almost seems like he just like gave them notes like, here's the things you need to do. It's very gross.
Yeah, on the gun control thing, right? The first thing that the occupying forces do is they go to like the local sporting goods store, and I guess there's like a form in that store that tells them like everyone who owns a gun, and then they like round all those people up basically. So it's like, you know, and they have no hesitation. They're just like, he knows even the name of the form, this the one colonel, right? He's like, you need to get like form like 1050B or whatever. And it's just like, oh yeah, like it just sounds like it's like someone watched like Tucker Carlson or something and just like took some notes and we're like, okay, now like we're going to like have all of these things just happen in order, where it's like, oh yeah, having any kind of tracking at all about who owns what guns just means that when the communists invade, they will like execute us.
So the weird thing is, again, maybe just from the process this film went through of being at first anti-war film to then being, you know, agitprop for the Reagan administration, is that like that whole thing is, first off, when that happens, again, the one kid's father, they find out that there are some guns missing because he gave the kids those guns to go run off into the wilderness with, so they execute him immediately. But before all of that, they do like this panning shot of like this dude's car, like as the troops are parachuting in, and it has the bumper sticker that says they can have my gun when they pry it from my cold dead hands, and then it pans to his cold dead hands with his gun. The idea being like, what good is your stupid fucking pistol gonna do against a actual military invasion? But then again, it immediately follows this with like, oh, but gun registries, we need to stop that because then the communists will be able to find everybody's guns. So there's like this weird discordance in scenes that happens in this film, probably as a result of the development process of the script.
Yeah, like watching this film makes me feel insane, but it also makes me like worried for like the average person in the United States, right? Because I feel like the completely incoherent, like every political position in this film is incoherent, right? From the more like tepidly liberal ones to the very state-aligned, reactionary, like fascist ones, to the like, there's also kind of like a like anti-state libertarianism current in the film, right? Like it's set in like the West, right? It's this idea of like, you know, but all of those things, none of them make any kind of sense at all. No. And they're all pure, but they all are like faith belief kind of stuff, right? There's no real material analysis in this at all. And it just like, but it makes me feel like this must be what it's like to just like have like cable news on your fucking TV 24 hours a day that you never turn off, like my parents who just leave the TV running even when they're like out of the house, so they don't have to not have it for a few seconds when they come in the door, right? Like just being constantly bombarded with these completely incompatible like just like statements of certainty of what will happen when a certain thing happens. And this film wants you to think that it has this insane ability to predict exactly what, it kind of reminds me of that guy that had the folks, time for some game theory Twitter thread, right? Like it's doing this oh, and then this is going to happen and then this is going to happen thing with absolute certainty, with no acknowledgement of the fact that some of the things that are happening are mutually contradictory and would cancel each other out or would precipitate other kinds of reactions. It's really like an incoherent rant you would hear from someone in a bar or something.
Sure. Can I tell you the scene that gave it away to me in terms of oh, this is designed agitprop? There's a lot of shit that is over the top in terms of just how kind of despicable it is. But the one scene that gave it away to me where I'm like, who from the Nixon administration was in on this? Was when the Russians, there are some Russians that drive out into the Coloradan wilderness and they're stopping at the national forest to sight gaze before they're gunned down by the Wolverines. And there's this sign in English that talks about the origination of the national forest. And it says, founded by President Theodore Roosevelt under the Forest Service Act of 1905, the forest comprises 40,000 acres of virgin timber, one of the largest stands of blue spruce in the American West. So that's that's what the sign says. And then the Russians are like, hey, so-and-so, you learned English at whatever academy. Can you translate what it says to Russian? And the guy translates it and says that what the sign is saying is, Arapaho National Battlefield. Here was a great peasant uprising in 1908 of the wild Indians. They were crushed by President Theodore Roosevelt, leading imperialist armies and cowboys. The battle lasted all winter. More than 35,000 were killed. It was the greatest battle of the American West. And when I read that, a few things came to mind. First is oh, this is someone who is deep enough in the core of American international political influence to be oh, those Russians, they turn everything into a history of class conflict. But also someone who would put something like that up and be isn't that ridiculous that people would think that the West was won by violence? What a terrible misreading of how the peaceful white settler came to inhabit Colorado. So as soon as that scene happened, I'm like, oh, this is agitprop from someone in the Nixon or Reagan administration.
Yeah.
Or, as it turned out, both.
That actually is a great point, because we also get a glimpse of that when they're in the re-education camp, and you can hear there are these loudspeakers while the Eisenstein film is playing that are just saying I can't remember exactly what they say, but it's essentially Americans, your country is founded on racism and exploitation or whatever. And it's there's these little hints that it's oh yeah, no, that's actually correct, right? But you are right that it to actually get that message into a Hollywood film that correct of what the actual Marxist position would be, right? You do need to actually be aligned with the State Department. When you see maybe more artful films that then try to include a character with a Marxist perspective, often, right? It's much less what those people would actually say. Right?
Yeah.
It's some weird imagined Hollywoodification of it. Whereas this film actually has a fairly accurate representation of what the correct analysis of and it's so funny because it's countered with just the shallowest History Channel level debate team guy well, actually Theodore Roosevelt, right? And bullshit. But it really is just it's you cracked open the head of fucking Ben Shapiro or something and poached it like an egg.
Yeah. Because again, viewers of the pod will mostly know me as the dumb nerd guy, but really, I have a degree in international politics, which when you get that at an American university means like a degree in like State Department. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I see what's going on here. Like this is pretty obvious where some of these edits came from.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's the best, it's actually one of the best cases, I think, for rejecting that ideology of, American imperialism and capitalism I've ever seen. Not because it's incoherent, but just because it sucks ass. It's like terrible to watch. And it's like, I really don't want to live in the world that operates under these like imperialist laws of physics, because it is a real drag. Unfortunately, we do.
Sucks.
But
yeah.
Seriously, watching this film is the equivalent of like just sitting alone in your room and reflecting on how bad the world is. There is no entertainment or escapism or anything in it at all. So what I was thinking we could do, Ethan, because I think we've exhausted maybe the analytical kernels in this film to be popped, that we could maybe, because we're always criticizing films, right? And, it's easy for us to do that. So, like, why don't we get our hands dirty a little? And, like, I thought we should come up with some ideas of how to make this film better.
Okay.
So, how could we improve Red Dawn? What do you think?
That's a great question. A couple of ideas come to mind. So, one suggestion of how this film could have been improved: replace Patrick Swayze's character with a black guy played by Billy D. Williams named Jefferson Davis Forrest, who at one point in the film turns to the camera and says, "I'm glad we're all working together to save America, unlike that Black Panther shit. That stuff is bad news, brother."
Oh, it's like some Mod Squad shit. Yeah,
that would have made it. That wouldn't have made the film better, but it would have made it more apparent what they were doing. And I'm honest, I'm frankly surprised they didn't go that route at some point during the film.
That, it actually, we're joking, but it's interesting that the film almost completely elides race, right? Like,
was there a single Black American or like non-white American in the film?
Well, so the one character, one of the boys' name is Arturo. And they call him Aardvark, and he refers to his father as like Papa. So like, I believe he is a Spanish speaker, but we don't know, like, he could be Spanish, like European Spanish. He could be Latinx or
I'm guessing that's a holdover from before the edits.
Yeah, that's the only, but there are no Black characters.
No.
And then there are obviously like Cuban and Nicaraguan characters who exist to like be killed. But it is a, they strategically place it in like a small town, Colorado, like town that really cares about high school football, right? Like it's, but it is interesting the degree to which, like, you compare that to, well, we actually maybe we'll watch the remake sometime, but like, this is a pre, like, even though it's coming out actually in like the height of like economic neoliberalism, like in the Reagan years, this is not doing this sort of like post-racial colorblind neoliberal version of this that we would more expect to see today, where we would have like a multicultural cast, which like, so in that way it's well behind Predator, right? But it is interesting the degree to which this film, like, again, like, it's so purely what the ideology is, right? Like, it only cares about small town white people.
What about you, Devin? What's your idea?
Yeah, so my first idea is, we've talked about another film that comes out this same year, 1984, right? David Lynch's Dune, which is, as we've talked about on the pod, if you want to listen a few episodes back, is also kind of like the only
David Lynch film worth watching.
Yeah, it's the best David Lynch film. It's the only David Lynch film as far as is concerned. Which I do have word that Dune, the David Lynch Dune, is exclusively streaming on NeilYoungArchives.com this month.
Subscribe now, folks.
But we talked about, like, that film is like obviously more science fictional, but a fever dream of like fascism, basically. And I tried to argue it was critical of it, right? But the other thing that film does, right, is it gives us a rockin' soundtrack, and by the band Toto, right, of Africa fame. And I just think fascism always goes down smoother with a Toto soundtrack, with some cheesy guitar solos, some really high fidelity production value, gated reverb on the drums, right? Like instead in this film, we get the most pre-packaged, like militaristic orchestration, just like the halls of Montezuma shit.
Yeah.
Like, no, man. I want my fascism to feel good. I want it to feel sexy.
Yeah.
Give me the guitar solos.
Right. Yeah. We get that you have a snare drum. Get over it, asshole. Mm-hmm. That's great. Did you have any other ideas of how this film might perhaps be improved?
Yeah, no. And so I think this would make the film much, much better, is that Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen should be playing themselves.
Oh.
I think if this film was actually about Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen just happened to be in this town, like maybe it's like a little metafictional, like they're gonna shoot a film here or something, and then the invasion happens, and then they playing themselves become guerrilla fighters, and then like the Russians are like, there's this man, Patrick Swayze, we can't stop him, and then like the people are like cheering on, whenever they show up. I would have enjoyed that much more. And then Powers Booth is also playing himself, but no one knows who the fuck he is, so it doesn't make a difference, right? Rest in peace, Powers Booth. Really like kicking dirt on Powers Booth's grave. But I think a little just give me a little metatextual spice. Give this film a little verb.
Great idea.
Did you have any others, Ethan?
I guess my other recommendation, instead of a story about the communists invading, just like a story about, how America played out like it did.
So anyway, we've been belaboring this long enough. How many Shia LaBeoufs are we going to give this?
Oh, 0.
Okay. So that's interesting. I actually gave it.
Can I pause?
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead.
I've been doing a lot of self-reflection, and that I look at our old past episodes. I don't listen to them because I don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. But a lot of my Shia LaBeoufs are on the very low end. Like I gave the new Dune like very low Shia LaBeoufs, and it's actually like it's a fine. It's an enjoyable film. Mm-hmm. And so I've been trying to reflect on like I should not be so harsh about the number of Shia LaBeoufs that I give these films. And then after I've had this moment of reflection, we watch Red Dawn. And I have to double down on my inability to like even give over half the possible Shia LaBeoufs that I can give a film, because like Red Dawn is such just pure distilled shit that I can't find any justification for giving it a reasonable or for giving it a higher amount of Shia LaBeoufs, let alone any amount of Shia LaBeoufs. I'm just going to give it a 0 and be done with it.
Yeah, that's interesting because I like felt very differently. I actually gave it like 20 Shia LaBeoufs, but then the Shia LaBeoufs are all like lined up in a line and shot to death. So it ends up becoming 0 in death. Like in all seriousness,
what are they singing? What are all the Shia LaBeoufs singing when they're gunned down?
Love Me Tender. But like in all seriousness, this may be the worst movie I've ever seen. It's like it's certainly, I don't know what the worst movie I've ever seen is, but there is like a level of movie that very few movies reach where it's like when like in Ant-Man, when he shrinks so small that like time and space stop meaning anything. Like you get into movies that bad and like it's like, what does it mean to say is Red Dawn or Backdraft 2 better? Like I don't know, but Red Dawn is in that category of like absolute worst movie. And I will defend I am first in line to defend a reactionary movie if it has any redeeming qualities whatsoever.
First
if it's
in
entertaining.
Line. Wow.
Yeah. No,
get back, everybody else. I'm first in line to defend reactionary films. Anyways, go on.
This is what they brought us on neilyoungarchives.com to do. But like I'm just saying,
power.
If it was like a fun action movie that then had a reactionary message, I would not shy away from Shia LaBeouf away from its how bad the politics are, but I wouldn't let that keep me from enjoying the action scenes or whatever. That's all I mean. But like these aren't enjoyable action scenes. Like it like this looks like it was like it's not even like student film quality. It's just ridiculous. And then we didn't even talk about the cut to the credits. So like the movie ends with like all the boys are dead and the only person that survived is one of the two girls.
Yeah, so let's just to close this out, the ending of this film, because we've been talking for quite a while about how it is about these American partisans that are fighting the communists in Colorado. Eventually, the communists learn that they can employ 3 helicopters. And when they do that, they kill all of the Wolverines pretty much, except for Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen, the 2 brothers. And I guess also like there's the 2 other Wolverines that survive.
Oh, like one of the 2 women survives, and then like I guess one of the boys that they're indistinguishable survives.
Yeah, they all die, and then they have like the ending scene with Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen, where like where Charlie Sheen dies, but they
both die.
Well, no, he gets the Cuban guy lets them get away because
but then they die. But then they die in each other's arms. Like,
oh really? Oh, is that what happens?
Yeah. No. He just doesn't. He doesn't kill them
actively
there,
kill them.
But then they escape, and then they like have a moment of like tenderness, and they die in each other's arms.
That's right.
The only survivors at the end of the film are Jennifer Grey, and then like the last boy, whoever he is.
Yeah. So like at the end of the film, all the Wolverines die, and they've realized that they're running up on 2 hours runtime, which is mind-boggling to me. In 1984, like you've gone 2 hours and an hour.
People don't have cell phones.
Yeah, like almost all this film is like you shooting at communists.
Parents are like think their children are missing.
Yeah, it's bad. And so they realize like, oh, we need to end the film. And so like they have the voiceover of, I think, Jennifer Grey's character saying like, oh, I never saw the brothers again. In time, this war, like every other war, ended. But I never forgot. And I come to this place often, though no one else does. Just like fucking like they had to get in one last like they don't respect memorials line of like people don't respect the massacre of like the Lakota's monument that we put up in 1906. No one comes to revere that. And they had in that last line.
No, everyone's in line at the Sam Goody for the new Sting single. Or they're like, they're looking for an orange Julius at the mall. Nobody comes out to this monument that is seemingly in the middle of nowhere. No access.
Yeah, like the entire point was they put a rock in the middle of nowhere to put the names of their dead. And can I read what it says on Partisan Rock to close us out here?
Yeah.
It says, Partisan Rock, in the early days of World War III, guerrillas, mostly children, placed the names of their lost upon this rock. They fought here alone and gave their lives, quote, so that this nation shall not perish from the earth, end quote. And my favorite part is in that scene in the background, you see the American flag, and Puerto Rico is still not a state. We did it, everyone. We did it.
And then we get a hard cut to the credits too, where it does that thing where like all the characters have like photographs, and like it's like I only learned the names of the characters via this because, like I said, they have no characterization. But we apparently it's presenting them to us as if we really are sad that Aardvark is dead. Everyone remembers the great character Aardvark from Red Dawn, who had all those quirks we remember and actions that we also remember.
Like, what happened? Did we like say like, let's call it even with the Russians? Like, did we
don't ask questions?
Like, what?
The war ended.
Yeah, war's over. We did it.
But liberals won't go to the monument.
America endured as it will forever.
Yep. Well, thank you, listener, for tuning in to neilyoungarchives.com and listening to Your Tall, But I'm Standing in Front of You. Please find us on neilyoungarchives.com and do give us a 5-star rating.
Devin, I understand that you have a neilyoungarchives.com exclusive to take us out.
Yes, we will be gradually replenishing the catalog of neilyoungarchives.com now that the music of Neil Young has been removed. So again, thanks for listening, and please enjoy. We'll see you soon on neilyoungarchives.com.
Caught you downloading a brand new pod. You love us, baby, but it takes a flood. Pod, the damaged pod. You heard the episode about Red Dawn. We watched the movie, but our minds were gone. Pod, the damaged pod. Download the pod because you love the man, whether the tall one or the one who stands. Pod, the damaged pod. I heard the podcast was about Red Dawn, and now they're recording another John. But every podcast's a forgotten